that. Yeah. So, good afternoon to our all respected members of the Dr. KKSCFI Heart Care Foundation of India Round Table Expert Group of Environment. सभी को नमस्कार और
in a position to make presentation. So just give me 10 minutes. I will be.
Sure. Okay. So thank you, Sanjeev. We'll start that. Yeah. So good afternoon to our all respected members of the Dr. KKSCFI Heart Care Foundation of India Round Table Expert Group of Environment. सभी को नमस्कार और particularly जो हमारे मेंटर और मैं अपनी मीटिंग को बहुत अपने इस ग्रुप को बहुत धन्य मानता हूं कि हमारे साथ श्री पार्थोस त्यागी सर हैं और भी एक्सपर्ट मेंबर्स हैं, सभी लोग ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं और अभी ज्वाइन करने वाले हैं। तो सभी को जो है धन्यवाद करते हुए आई विल स्टार्ट आवर मीटिंग। तो नैना, यू आर टुडे ज्वाइन देयर। गुड आफ्टरनून नैना। ओके, सो सबसे पहले आज का टॉपिक जो वी हैव सिलेक्टेड, जो लास्ट संडे हमने लिया था, न्यू रूल्स दैट हैज बीन नोटिफाइड बाय मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट, फॉरेस्ट एंड क्लाइमेट चेंज, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ऑन 24 अगस्त। दैट इज द बैटरी वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट रूल्स 2022। ये हमने लास्ट संडे इसको टॉपिक लिया था, बट कुछ लोग हमारे बिकॉज ऑफ सम लिमिटेशन अबाउट द ज्वाइनिंग ऑन द जूम लिंक, कुछ लोग जो है ज्वाइन नहीं कर पाए थे और बहुत से लोग इसमें लिमिटेशन थी उसमें। सो और टॉपिक भी हमारा जो लिया था कंटिन्यूअस नहीं हो पाया। सो वी हैव जस्ट इस सब्जेक्ट को कंटिन्यू कर रहे हैं। दैट इज द बैटरी वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट रूल्स 2022। वी ऑल नो द बैटरी वेस्ट is a very hazardous waste because it contains heavy metals such as lead, cadmium, mercury, which is harmful, and if not disposed in a scientific manner, that can create so many problems, so many health diseases, and to the damage to the environment. The battery waste the rules that were notified in 2001 initially as the battery management and handling rules 2001, but these rules did not cover several types of battery, and there was had so many implementation issues also, the buyback policy and other collection system, and the scope of the new battery जो rules अभी आए हुए हैं, battery waste management rules 2022 has been enlarged, and the new rules cover all type of batteries such as electric vehicle batteries, portable batteries, automotive batteries, and industrial batteries. And this is a really a very good step by the government of India, who has just covered all kind of battery under this umbrella rules. So these new rules, this is applicable to all producers, dealers, consumers, and all those who involve in their recycling, including those involved in the collection, segregation, and transportation of these battery waste. That was. These rules functions on the concept of extended producer responsibility, EPR, where the producers, including importers of batteries, are responsible for collection and recycling, refurbishment of waste battery, and use of recovered material from waste into new batteries. आप सभी जानते हैं कि this is the EPR concept has been introduced इन नंबर ऑफ रूल्स, particularly 2016 में जब बहुत से रूल्स नोटिफाई हुए, वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट रूल्स, मे बी दी ई-वेस्ट रूल्स और प्लास्टिक बेस्ड रूल्स, एंड जो सिमिलर इस तरह के जो सॉलिड वेस्ट के रिलेटेड बहुत से रूल्स हैं. सो EPR concept has been introduced, and somehow maybe some percent is successful also, but I think a lot of changes also required for the work, EPR mechanism to work in the. So this EPR mandates that all waste battery to be collected and sent for recycling, refurbishment, and it also prohibits disposal in landfill and incineration. To meet the EPR obligations, producers may engage themselves or authorize any other entity for collection, recycling, or refurbishment of waste batteries. So many things are under these rules. Very detailed rules have been notified. We'll discuss. Jab tak, actually, I requested last Sunday to Sanjeev Kumar, who is a very senior person in the RE Sustainability Limited, the Ramki organization, or abhi he just on the way, so he'll make a detailed presentation on these rules. और जब तक वो ज्वाइन कर, ऑलरेडी आई थिंक ज्वाइंड, जब तक और फर्दर अभी प्रेजेंटेशन देते हैं, सो मैं अपने कुछ सीनियर से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा. आज तो सबसे पहले पंकज कपिल जी का भी स्वागत है. पंकज कपिल जी बहुत दिनों बाद आए हैं. आज जो है मेरे सो बिजी शेड्यूल रहा है इनका. पंकज कपिल जी, आई थिंक जस्ट आई एम सीइंग द नेम बट फोटो नहीं आ रही है. सो वेलकम पंकज जी. आई थिंक म्यूट है आपका पंकज जी. चलिए अभी आई थिंक करते हैं. तो जब तक अभी प्रेजेंटेशन देंगे संजीव जी, सो मैं पार्थोस त्यागी सर से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि इनिशियल रिमार्क जो है सर आपके, बिकॉज आई थिंक 2001 में आपके पहले ये उस समय प्रोसेस स्टार्ट हो गई होगी बैटरी रूल्स के लिए, क्योंकि तब तो उसके पहले आप चेयरमैन थे CPCB के, और आपके टाइम पे शायद ये प्रोसेस इनिशिएट हो गया होगा, बट 2001 में नोटिफाई हुए. तो ये आपका जो है कहते ब्रेन चाइल्ड आपका स्टार्ट आपसे हुआ है उधर समय से. तो मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा पार्थोस त्यागी सर से कि जो पहले रूल्स थे और जो अभी चेंजेस हैं, तो आपकी इनिशियल कमेंट्स वी वांट, फर्दर विल डिस्कस विद दी अवर अदर जो है एक्सपर्ट मेंबर्स. ओवर टू पार्थोस त्यागी सर.
थैंक यू. सबको मेरी ग्रीटिंग्स. और इन्होंने जो आशा बना दी है मुझसे, मैं सबको डिसअपॉइंट करने के लिए बहुत शर्मिंदा हूँ. मैं 1990 में रिटायर कर गया, तो 11 साल पहले मैं इन चीज़ों से वाकिफ नहीं था, मगर मैं इत्तेफाक से उस कमेटी में था जो कि प्रोफेसर मेनन की चेयरमैनशिप में थी, और उसने हैजर्डस वेस्ट को कैसे हैंडल किया जाए कंट्री में, उसके ऊपर बड़ी डिटेल्ड रिपोर्ट दी. क्या इंपोर्ट और क्या एक्सपोर्ट और क्या स्टोरेज, और उसमें बैटरीज वगैरह के बारे में भी अच्छी तरीके से एग्जामिन किया. और वो कमेटी ने काफ़ी डिटेल्ड ये भी बतलाया कि हेल्थ एस्पेक्ट्स कहाँ कंसर्न्ड है, और एनवायरनमेंट एस्पेक्ट्स और हेल्थ एस्पेक्ट्स इंटरट्वाइंड है. इस तरह की बहुत से बातें उन्होंने उसमें लिखी. और इत्तेफाक से एक ऐसी बात भी लिखी जो कि एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर्स को बहुत पसंद नहीं आई हो. उन्होंने बड़े क्लियर वर्ड्स में, प्रोफेसर मेनन ने लिखा कि ये एक टेक्निकल सब्जेक्ट है और इसमें बहुत रिसर्च की ज़रूरत है, और हेड्स के ऊपर वे लोग होने चाहिए जो कि टेक्निकली क्वालिफाइड हो. और उसके बावजूद तब से लेके अब तक 2001 में ही शायद उनकी रिपोर्ट भी आई थी, और तब से लेके अब तक मैं देखता हूँ कि सेंट्रल बोर्ड में क्या और स्टेट पोल्यूशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड्स में क्या एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर्स की भरमार है, और एस्पेक्ट ऑफ रिसर्च हैज हार्डली बीन टच्ड. अगर आप इसे कंपेयर करें फॉरेस्ट से, जहाँ पे कि फॉरेस्ट रिसर्च इंस्टीट्यूट है, कितना अच्छा बंदोबस्त है वहाँ पे रिसर्च का भी और ट्रेनिंग का भी, उसके कंपैरिजन में एनवायरनमेंट विच इज मच मोर कॉम्प्लेक्स देन ए फॉरेस्ट, there is hardly any comparable institute other than NEERI, which I'm so sorry to say, which has to function like a commercial body. They have to earn fees in order to continue to work, and therefore their approach is not to solve the problems of environment, but to obtain assignments and get fees. And that is not the way you can really identify problems and solve them in a systematic manner. So coming back to your subject of today, my feeling, if I do not know the amendments that have been made, but whatever I have listened to Dr. Anil Kumar, I think they are still talking of very big batteries and batteries which are used in electronic equipments, and they can be very small like a button. They can be bigger also like a plate, but they do not seem to have been covered. The other aspect which I had in my mind as a criticism for the previous arrangement, and I would like to know whether that aspect has been retraced, is that all stakeholders have been mentioned without assigning due responsibility as to who. Although we call it a manufacturer's responsibility, but in between the manufacturer and the consumer, there come several parties which are dealers and other retailers. And therefore, when a consumer retires his battery, all that he does is that he hands it over to the party from whom he purchases a new battery. Whether then on the downstream side, the dealer has a very clearly set responsibility of conveying it right up to the manufacturer or not, I have doubts. But I will be very glad to know the facts as they are so that my doubts are removed. I personally would like to end the talk here by just mentioning this, that whenever an enactment is made, its implementation aspects must be covered by care of it. And number two, whether there is a responsibility allocation which is completely unchallengeable. These two tests, if they are not made on any enactment, then the implementation aspects remain very, very poorly enforced. And thank you very much for giving the honor.
Sir.
You continue with your meeting.
Thank you very much, sir. And definitely these are some lacking in the environment front, and particularly जो आपने research की बात की, we are totally dependent on the academic institutions और जो CSR organizations, but particularly जो state government और central government का environment field में our own institutes are very lacking, and जो particularly practical problems हैं, उनके issues हैं, need based research की अभी बहुत सी I think कमी, this very important aspects you highlighted, sir, and you mentioned about all the previous battery rules and the amendment and the collection problems and the implementation. So now I think Sanjeev Kumar is just to Sanjeev ji, कर सकते हैं, we can make presentation now.
Yes sir, please. Ankit, can you start the slideshow? One of my colleagues will be doing the slideshow. And to all the honorable members, I'm extremely sorry for making you all wait. So please kindly look into. I'm really sorry for getting you all late. Can you go to the first slide, Ankit? Yeah, go to the next slide. Yeah, sir. Very good afternoon. This presentation is just to act as a refresher about what is the battery waste management rules 2022 talks about. And just to say that the first rule, which was in 2001, was mainly concentrated upon the lead acid batteries, whereas the present rule, during the process, there was an e-waste rule which was focusing on the management of all the electronic waste. The waste, considering the different types of technology and the different types of rules, most of the material covered under battery waste was also becoming a part of e-waste and the hazardous waste. So it was thought that how does with the change in technology and how does with the change in the different types of waste, the battery waste management rules can be strengthened upon. So with that, this battery waste management rule was formulated, and the draft was shared in 2020, wherein all the comments from different people or sections came in, and finally this rules became effective from 27th of August this year. The rules are mainly about this. What is different in the rules is from that these rules will replace the battery waste management and handling rules with more focus the rule on the different types of batteries, that is batteries coming upon the electric vehicle batteries, portable batteries, automotive batteries, and industrial batteries. So those batteries are categorized in 3 different types. One is for the consumer application battery, the self storage or self aggregators battery, and the other industrial batteries. Like say for example, if we are using our mobile, so batteries falls under CAE. The other which is coming other types of batteries industrial batteries. So this particular this thing was done to see that how the all types of batteries are coming in picture. So this rules also functions based on the concept of extended producer responsibility. By the time e-waste rules were getting into system, and so EPR was a concept which was getting more into success stories. Some developments were happening. So this battery waste also was promulgated to see that how EPR responsibilities are extended to the producers, wherein producers and the importers, wherein the entire responsibility for collection and recycling and refurbishing of waste batteries and use of recovered material from waste into new batteries files goes to the responsibility of the PIBO, that is producer, importer, and brand owners. EPR mandates that all the waste batteries to be collected and sent to the recycling, refurbishment, and its prohibition in landfill and incineration. So the objective is to ensure that every part of the battery is recovered and reused and recycled, and by in doing so, if any rejects goes, that only should go to for disposal to the secured landfill, not to the municipal solid waste dumping grounds. To meet the EPR obligations, producers may engage or authorize any other entity for collection, recycling, and refurbishment. So the objective of EPR guideline is that we can talk to anyone, we can get things done through anything, but the entire responsibility lies to the producer. So with that was the objective. The rules also enable setting up of a mechanism and centralized online portal for exchange. It works like an waste exchange program where the certificates will be issued by generators or the importers or the persons who are engaged into collection and collection, transportation, refurbishing, and recycling. Go to the next slide. This aim is also to ensure it's line with all the rules which is coming up, is mainly to see that the concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat, or making more entrepreneurs into the different systems, especially to the field of recycling, is also getting in place. So it is for setting up of industries and entrepreneurship in collection and transport, collection and recycling and refurbishment. It mandates the minimum percentage of recovery material from the waste batteries under the rule will bring to the technologies and investment. It also aims that a lot of new technologies will come in, which will lead to the manufacturing objective of government of India. Prescribing the use of certain amount of recycled materials in making new batteries will reduce. So a lot of materials like lead, cobalt, aluminium, and other such precious minerals can be protected through this method. It talks of online registration and reporting, auditing, and a committee for monitoring the implementation. I think Honorable Paritosh sir has already emphasized on this, which is lacking in most of our implementation and enforcement of the rules. So, and integrating with the technology as a system to see that the material balance out of any such processes are there. It also works on the principles of polluters pay principle. Environmental compensation will be imposed for non-fulfilling the extended PR targets. So EC is mainly to the promoters and the brand owners, and those who are using it or those who are paying for it. It will also look into that. It also looks for that the funds which are collected from the environment compensation shall be utilized for collection and refurbishing of the recycling of the uncollected and recycled waste. So this particular item has been specifically added here because most of the EC amount where to be used is not being so clearly defined. So here this has been clearly defined. I will just so the first two slides was mainly on the part of what can be the what is the crux of the entire rule and how these rules are different. If you we have just tried to tabulate the difference from 2001 to 2022. So under each head, there has been a change in bringing in the new things which was missing in 2001. 2001 rule was a first rule. You can say a first generation to bring in awareness more, whereas 2022 is aiming to bring in robust mechanism or the steps which are involved in bringing in the how to execute the same. So it very clearly defines that the producer application is this rule is applicable to producer, dealer, consumer entities involved in collection, segregation, transportation, refurbishing, and recycling of waste battery. Here the waste batteries are of all types, regardless of chemistry, shape, volume, weight, and material composition. And which is not applicable to the battery uses equipments connected with the protection of essential security interested. So certain items has been prohibited because of data security, and these are mainly related to the internal security of the country or some particular items. Go to the next, please. On the case of definition, the definition itself has been very clearly mentioned. It says that it brings in to act automotive battery, battery packs, battery material, cells, consumer disposable electrical vehicles, environmentally sound management, battery waste, EPR registration. So many types of batteries, and what are the other things which gets into it. Next. The functions responsibility includes the manufacturer, importer, assembler, and reconditioner, whereas in this particular thing they are laying that PIB producer, consumer, public waste management authorities, refurbishers, recyclers, central pollution control board, and SPCBs. So every department which can be responsible or can be an enabler to how to ensure that this particular rule gets clearly implemented. The rules are trying to give a clear-cut responsibility on the same. Responsibilities are in 2001 were laid down. Go to the next slide. Here also the responsibilities by here each function has been clearly made the responsibility as to what will be the responsibility of the producer. It very clearly says that producer will be completely accountable to meet their obligation of extended producer responsibility, and certain targets year-wise has been mentioned and given to them. It also talks of the tool as to how to ensure the monitoring mechanism is happening and how it is online. It is getting shared with material balance being known to the regulators, to the producers, and to the executors. However, a detailed SOP for each of these items is yet to be done by Central Pollution Control Board. Probably this committee can think of giving some SOP to the Central Pollution Control Board on few of the identified items. Next, please. Functions of the consumer. The consumer also has to ensure that the discarded waste battery is separated from other waste streams like mixed waste, domestic waste streams, and should hand over battery waste to the entities engaged in their collection, refurbishment, and recycling. Here there is one catch which is talking of public waste management authority to be involved, whereas generally the rule says that PIBO can engage any entity Now the issue is that Public Waste Management Authority generally does not get engaged into such private collections. So how do we see that this gets through, and how the responsibility of the engaged, suppose some company is engaged for collection and transportation, how he is getting it engaged through public waste management as well as the PIBO. So that is not very clear. Functions engaged in collections for segregation should hand over the battery waste to the registered refurbishing or recyclers. So far, there are number of registered refurbishing and recyclers, but their waste, where their quantities or the audits or the waste audits, to be very particular, are not very clearly defined. So a lot of leakages in terms of waste going out to environment is being shown in the is likely to happen. Functions of refurbishers and recyclers, these are very clearly defined. Refurbishers and recyclers. One such caution on the refurbisher and recycler is that during the process of dismantling, during the process of depolluting, during the process of certain recovery of the metal, those have to be very clear cut under the pollution control measures, as well as because lot of these batteries has got certain material which are high risk to the health of the workers. Any small inhalation will require a lot of monitoring. So these refurbishers and recyclers, infrastructure as to what should be the exact infrastructure needs to be clearly defined, and that will depend upon the type of technology, because there are various technologies into it. So though during that processes, those SOPs or the design or the guideline by the Central Pollution Control Board needs to be defined so that the air and water pollution does not have, apart from the potential risks to the health hazards. Next slide, please. So if you see, it's a small schematic diagram as to what will be the four parties involved into it. The first one is establishment of collection center for the collection of the used batteries for the dealers, and ensuring that the collected batteries of one is transported to the registered recyclers. Annual reporting system of the buybacks of the central and the state pollution control board needs to be integrated, and this has to be done through PIBOs so that they are able to get it registered, or material or the numbers balance or the audits of the number of what produced by them, sold by them, and how many is coming back to them. Obviously, with the end of the life of the battery is to be looked into, and collection of the used batteries against new batteries sold. There can be exchange, and it is important that even the exchange and the recovered batteries or the recycled batteries do have sufficient life to for second or the one use, maybe from one use it can be used to the other ones. Next slide, please. I think this is the same one, but in a different format. It's summary of the battery waste management. The major focus is the connection of the used batteries against new batteries sold, for issuance of the purchase invoices wherever batteries are getting collected, establishment of the collection center, annual reporting sales and bypass and buyback, and ensuring batteries collected and transported are safely to the authorized and registered recyclers. Next, please. There are some potential problems and challenges which needs to be much more debated, discussed. This is exclusively from what we can think of, but it can be much more list, because batteries are going to be one of the major requirement for next year, from in the coming days or so, because India being energy surplus, and distribution of electricity has to be looked into, because some areas are highly surplus, but there are huge number of distribution challenges. There are challenges which is related to distribution in terms of freebies or whatever. But so energy conservation, energy conservation through storage batteries will be one such very big potential manufacturing thing in the country, which can generate a lot of employment and all. But in doing so, this also needs to see that the discarded batteries are being used for the different purposes. So these rules fails to establish the regulatory standards by testing and classifying used batteries and having secondary life that could used in public application. The incentives to follow the rules is not explicitly mentioned. There is no provision for separate licenses for handling only lithium-ion batteries. Lithium-ion batteries, as what in the beginning Honorable Parikush sir has said, this involves a lot of study. There is so much of thing in this particular field, and with the coming of the lithium-ion batteries, because of the electric vehicle being used at a very large and very high speed, so these lithium-ion batteries needs a separate management, separate from electronic waste, such as there is no reduced minimum requirement for the entry into recycling of lithium-ion batteries. Go to next slide, please. What can be the recommendations, or what can look into this? This all needs huge debate, lot of participation at different levels, because these are things which are very selectively being presented here, and it needs a lot of debate to assess whether it is correct or not. But what comes to is that there has to be a demand measure. Demand is huge. Huge means every single family is using number of batteries per day, and probably in a year or so there are roughly to the tune of 500 kgs or so in terms of batteries getting discarded in a year. So we can think of that much kind of problems. So disposal of batteries in landfills should be made illegal, so that the batteries can undergo proper disposal, and a separate collection agency should be established on to help streamlining both collection and refurbishing. There has to be a policy support. There should be a provision of separate license for handling lithium-ion batteries, electronic waste, and the Central Pollution Control Board must explicitly state the responsibilities of the corporates producing that, as well as the repercussions of their inability to achieve the stated responsibility. Incentivizing is very important factor, because this will lead to a lot of employment and a lot of manufacturing prospects. And other, like what we are seeing in the EPR for PET bottles, or is the deposit refund system for those who have recently visited or may have visited Kedarnath and some shrines. For every bottle to be purchased, if the water bottle is costing 10 rupees or 15 rupees, another 10 rupees is being deposited by the seller, so that if you, after drinking the water, if you deposit back that water bottle to them, then it is that 10 rupees will be refunded. The objective is to ensure that the bottle moving out should not go to the environment, but should return back to the seller or the producer. So that kind of deposit refund is to be implemented to provide customers incentives for manufacturers for meeting recycling regulations. And obviously such requires a lot of support in terms of financing. These kinds of facilities can be a part of integrated facility, but at the same time, if someone is wanting to set up a new facility for refurbishment and all, there should be some grants, which was earlier under the central sector scheme by the Finance Commission, but probably over the years this has got there is no such scheme, but such financing schemes needs to be promulgated. Next slide, please. So these are the targets as specified in the rules. Probably this needs a strong debate as to how to achieve this target. Is it achievable? Definitely it is achievable, because we as in India has a large number of consumers and producers, and even the networks are very high. But how to make it achievable is yet to be looked into. Next slide, please. With that, I'm done, sir. Thank you for patience hearing, and apologies once again, sincere apologies for being so late for this presentation. Kindly excuse me. I just want to share that my son cleared the IIT advanced exam, and I had gone to temple to put my obeisance. So with that, I got delayed. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sanjay. Congratulations. Great, Sanjay.
Congratulations, bhai. Congratulations.
So,
बहुत अच्छा. And the presentation was so good. I
Yeah,
could not
yeah.
resist myself to tell you and congratulate you here also. Well, all the best. All the best.
Yeah,
Oh,
Sanjay,
so
thank you so
fluently
much for
speak
detailed
this time.
presentation. So I'll, I think, discuss,
So
continue
fluently
discussion.
speak.
Sahab, you can continue. I think that we want to, I mean, whatever your observation, whatever your further views, you can just share with us. So,
one thing, sir, the battery. Yes, recently I was having a discussion with some experts. Even the inventory, how much is being produced as on date, and how it is going to increase over the years, because the electrical and electronic equipments are likely to increase in the coming years. So as a result, we are expecting increase in the battery also, use in the batteries, and as well as disposal and segregation of these batteries. So until and unless these are estimated, how this projection has been made, I am really still in dilemma of this thing. Even that we could not complete the total inventory of our electronic waste being generated as on date. Even we don't have any idea what is the per capita generation of electronic waste or the battery waste. Other than these figures, some case studies are required to be carried out at the initially. On that basis, the infrastructure, how much infrastructure is required over the years, those part will be necessary for us. Now, the Public Waste Management Authority, what is that, Sanjeev? What do you want to say about it?
Sir, that the rule, what it says that it should be the municipal authorities like municipalities, municipal corporations is what the rule is mentioning, and it is clearly the definition indicates that.
So it is to be incorporated in the municipal act first, or it is already existing? I'm not aware. That's why I'm asking.
Sir, actually, there is in fact, that needs one different discussion. If you see the hazardous waste rule, municipal solid waste rules, electronic waste rules, plastics, and even the battery waste rules, there says domestic hazardous waste is one such waste which is coming out and is mentioned only in the municipal solid waste. And the role of collection of domestic hazardous waste is the responsibility of the ULBs. But it is not mentioned in either of the other rules as to how they get integrated. And battery per se comes under domestic hazardous waste rule when it comes to CEA, that is consumer application, some center, something like that. Which is like me and you are using so many batteries, so we are a direct consumer. We are not the other one.
So if it is within the municipality, even the municipal corporation, this authority, whom they are going to report? Is it the municipal authority or State Pollution Control Board and in turn Central Pollution Control Board? So that is the clarification is again required in the rule. Who is going to form? Because I am not aware really the Public Waste Management Authority is working as on date.
Battery
Anyway,
waste
thank
is
you very
mentioning
much.
that, sir. Sorry, sir.
Yeah.
Battery
Okay.
is mentioning that.
Okay.
Thank
So
you, sir.
separate. Okay, sir. Thank you so much for
Thank you,
giving me
sir.
the
Thank you,
opportunity.
sir. If Pankaj Kapil ji, you can unmute and the from the DPCC side about the awareness part, particularly because it's very important for the consumer to know that the new rules and what is the responsibility of the consumer, where they can deposit, where is the collection center, some kind of awareness needed, or what the Pollution Control Board, particularly in Delhi, I know that for every state board, the battery waste management rules implementation 2001 is a very neglected part, because it was given some responsibility to additionally to some cell who is dealing with the waste management. Not a very kind of direct responsibility, the implementation of battery waste rules was earlier. So now what is the thinking of the Pollution Control Board? Pankaj Kapil ji, if you can unmute and you can tell us something about.
वो मुझे पता लगा है अभी किसी मीटिंग में चले गए, वो उनका कॉल आ गई है.
Okay, no issue. So anybody can highlight on that, because I know that I was in the Environment Department, DPCC, and the battery waste management rules very neglected. Kind of some kind of annual return was filed, and so Pollution Control Board not putting much manpower and efforts to the implementation of that rules, because so this is very important. If new rules, a lot of responsibility and implementation by the state board, and also the overseen by CPCB is very important to see the entire integration is done for this difference responsibility. So now I'll request though Jindal ji has last time commented on that. So after the presentation of Sanjeev ji, Jindal ji, if you have any observation or so you can just Jindal ji.
Dr. Sahab, good afternoon. Tyagi sir, good afternoon, and good afternoon to Mr. S.K. Gupta ji and Dr. Sanchita Jindal, and congratulations to Sanjeev ji and for a brilliant presentation. I joined the presentation in between anyway, but last week I promised that I will study the rules. I have studied the rules. There are certain gaps. Mr. Sanjeev also mentioned now that domestic hazardous waste, electronic waste, hazardous waste, linkage is required. Second is, battery. When you say that manufacturer has to comply with this, and there are two schemes, and it is left for the generator, left for the producer or the dealer to decide whether they want to have a deposit scheme or we want to have a buyback scheme. This is, dicey situation. डिपॉजिट स्कीम, एज मिस्टर संजीव सेड कि दैट 20 रुपीज का बोतल है, 10 रुपए जमा कर लेता है, बोतल की कॉस्ट हार्डली 50-60 पैसे है. So there should not be disappropriate, deposits also. And suppose today manufacturer or the trader, he start initiating deposit scheme, and then he collects the money and then he runs away. Who will return that money? Second is in batteries. How much batteries for filing this annual returns? How many batteries are coming into a territory? Say Delhi. One is the OEM supply, which is coming into the car, that is lead acid, or then in the cell phone or our other electronics equipments. Now, how many OEM supplies and how many the replacement? That diversion is not available. If responsibility on the manufacturer, but what about the consumer? And can we make every consumer liable or responsible? That cannot happen, and that will be too much. So this has to be, some clarity has to be there, but still say we are here, that something new has come up after 2001 to 2022, after 21 years. So these gaps may be looked into, and the Central Pollution Control Board may kindly specify that these are the recycling system or recycling technologies are available, and this is techno-economic feasible, and it makes economic sense to recycle the lithium battery or the pencil battery or this button batteries, because putting the rules in place without having benefit for the recycler or the manufacturer, it becomes cumbersome and it leads to non-compliance. So that is my, and another issue is, if we read the rules, they say if recyclable thing, a small point because I don't have the text now, and that has been left to the owner, that environmental compensation will be put up on the manufacturer if this thing is not complied with. Now, and there is a iota that who will decide that whether this is recyclable or refurbishable or reusable battery. So that is another issue which is left open in the battery rule. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jindal sir. And for study, you have already studied and telling about the gaps and things like, and it's very important. Particularly, this is my again point, because we have implemented this rules. I mean, going to implement and already implemented. But unless we have the separate kind of a division under the waste management in the CPCB or the SPCB, though the CPCB is there, but in SPCB, not much focus, so many 7 or 8 waste management rules, and one with the 1 or 2 person, it will be very, very difficult to the implement. So the strengthening of the SPCB will be very important to the oversee the integration of the rules by the municipality, consumer, and awareness part, and all other parts. So thank you so much. And now I request S.K. Gupta ji, if you can some points you want to highlight, sir. S.M. Gupta ji.
Thank you, Dr. Anil. Thank you very much. मैं थोड़ा सा ये सोचता था डॉक्टर साहब कि जितने भी रूल्स वगैरह बनाए जाते हैं हमारे देश में, अल्टीमेटली इनका एक ऑब्जेक्टिव होता है कि भाई उसका वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट या वेस्ट डिस्पोजल या वेस्ट ट्रीटमेंट हो या जो भी सामान वेस्ट निकल रहा है उस अल्टीमेट डिस्पोजल कर सके ताकि वो एनवायरनमेंट को हार्म ना करे। अल्टीमेट तो हमारा ऑब्जेक्टिव यही है कि हम किस तरह से उसको मैनेज करें कि एनवायरनमेंट हार्म ना हो। तो अभी तक जितने भी रूल्स बने हैं, एक मेरे ख्याल से उसका एक क्रिटिकल एवेल्युएशन होना चाहिए जो हमने बनाए थे, क्या हमारे उससे ऑब्जेक्टिव नो हार्म टू द एनवायरनमेंट फुलफिल हो गए या नहीं हुए, या उसमें कहाँ गैप रह गए। हम रूल्स पे रूल बनाए चले जाते हैं हर चीज के लिए, और उसमें कई दफा कंज्यूमर जो होते हैं या पब्लिक जो एट लार्ज होती है उसको बहुत तकलीफ होती है उसको ऑब्जर्व करने में या उसका पालन करने में। तो मुझे लगता है कि जो थोड़ा सा हमको जो टेक्नोलॉजिस्ट हैं या एनवायरमेंटल टेक्नोलॉजिस्ट हैं या एनवायरनमेंट के बारे में सोचते हैं, उनका अल्टीमेटली एक ही ऑब्जेक्टिव है कि किसी तरह से एनवायरनमेंट हार्म ना हो, एनवायरनमेंट प्रोटेक्ट होता रहे। तो हमें जो कुछ भी हमने अब तक रूल्स बनाए हैं वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट के, उनका एक बहुत क्रिटिकल असेसमेंट टाइम टू टाइम होता रहना चाहिए कि कहाँ हमारे गैप्स रह गए, और जो हम नया रूल बना रहे हैं उसको उसी लाइट में देखना चाहिए कि भाई जो गैप रह गए थे वो इसमें तो नहीं आ गए कहीं दोबारा। तो हमें वो फैलेसीज बहुत ध्यान से देखते रहने चाहिए। तो इसके लिए कोई एक ऐसी कमेटी हो जो इसमें जो एनवायरनमेंट के इंटरेस्ट को प्रोटेक्ट करने वाले लोग हों, वो उस कमेटी के अंदर ज्यादा हों, बजाय इसके कि वो लोग हों जो खाली ये देखें कि किस तरह से डिस्पोजल हो जाए, किस तरह से समस्या खत्म हो जाए। टेल पाइप ट्रीटमेंट से काम नहीं चलेगा। आई थिंक वील हैव टू ट्रीट दी प्रॉब्लम एट द सोर्स। तो क्या तो हमें इसको कम करना होगा। अब जैसे अभी बैटरी के बारे में बातें हो रही थी कि बैटरी का शायद यूज आगे आने वाले समय में, जो प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी ने अभी कमिटमेंट किया है कि हम हाइड्रोजन को ज्यादा यूज बढ़ाएंगे, तो फिर बैटरीज का यूज शायद आने वाले समय में और कम हो जाए। तो क्या दिस इज ए गुड स्टेप कि अगर हम अल्टरनेटिव टेक्नोलॉजी को यूज कर सकें जिससे ये समस्या रिड्यूस हो जाए, इसका वॉल्यूम कम हो जाए और उसका हम ट्रीटमेंट शायद बेटर कर सकें, डिस्पोजल बेटर कर सकें। लेकिन मुझे लगता है कि पहले हमें एक क्रिटिकल असेसमेंट करना जरूरी है कि जितने भी हमने अब तक रूल्स बनाए हैं, क्या उनसे एनवायरनमेंट बच रहा है, क्या उनसे एनवायरनमेंट प्रोटेक्ट हो गया, नहीं हुआ तो कहाँ गलती हो गई, कहाँ कमी आ गई। इसलिए नया रूल कोई भी बनाए उसको उसी लाइट में देखना बहुत जरूरी है। मेरा सिर्फ इतना ही सबमिशन था सर।
थैंक यू गुप्ता जी। आई थिंक बट जो है ये बढ़ेगा बैटरी वेस्ट, बिकॉज पर्टिकुलरली जो सोलर में हो रहा है, इन्वर्टर की बैटरीज हो या ई व्हीकल पॉलिसी आ रही है, बिकॉज अगले 10 साल में तो अभी तो जिस हिसाब से पॉलिसी है 2028 2030 तक तो बहुत ई व्हीकल्स का जो लिथियम आयन बैटरी का है या सोलर में है इन्वर्टर बैटरीज, तो ये बढ़ेगा। और पर्टिकुलरली आई थिंक अभी आगे हाइड्रोजन आने में बहुत टाइम लगेगा। तो थैंक यू सो मच गुप्ता जी। नाउ सर पार्थो त्यागी सर कुछ कहना चाहते हैं सर, रिक्वेस्ट है सर प्लीज।
थैंक यू। मैं कुछ क्वेश्चन रेज करना चाह रहा था कि कुछ बैटरीज मैन्युफैक्चरर्स जो हैं वो फॉरेन हैं, बैटरीज आर इम्पोर्टेड एंड देन दे आर मार्केटेड हियर। In that case, the person who imports and distributes, etc., will have no technical facility. उनका warehouse storage and वो होगा, बाकी जो responsibility to treat, reuse, etc., may not exist. And these rules probably do not insist on that for the imported batteries. That is one thing. Second is, it is said that the local body will engage itself to dispose it of, or will authorize somebody. It should not be that they can authorize somebody. They should engage some other agency, and so the responsibility is not shifted. So that was second point. And third, I think Mr. R.N. Jindal made a very good point that if you put a deposit and the person takes that deposit and runs away, then or you may not be able to reach back to him. It becomes very difficult to get back that deposit after several years of use of that battery. For that, I have a solution. The solution is that at the time of purchase of battery, there is a small document which authorizes you to encash it at any post office. And this arrangement can be made between post offices and the business in this subject, so that they receive that money, and wherever India is, one can get back that deposit that we had earlier made. These were a few points I wanted to. Thank you very much for giving
Thank you,
me
sir.
that.
So Sanjeev ji, can you just answer these if you have? Sanjeev Kumar ji.
Yes, sir. I think
Yeah.
the Paritosh sir has given a very good thought of like the word called authorized versus engage. I think that is a really very good thing to happen, because engagement does not shreds off your accountability, whereas authorization do sheds off, give some leverage to this thing. So that is one thing. And the other best part, what sir has said, there is engagement of, or how to get post office these things looked into. I think that is a point which will require senior level people to look into, because it is not only with batteries, it is coming with electronic waste also, because every mobile which we purchase, if you read between the lines, it says that some part of the money is being used to ensure that the waste gets properly disposed of, but mechanism as to to how to get it recovered and how to make people uh, make it lucrative for the people to reach out, and post office being the last milestone reaching out to the rural India, I think that is a very good thing to happen. I think both the things are needs a lot of follow up with the pollution control board to make it engaging.
Thank you संजीव जी. मैं टाइम हमारे पास अभी 5-7 मिनट हैं, so I'll request राजीव शर्मा जी, आपने आई थिंक रूल्स हमने आपको भेज दिए थे. If you want to say anything, शर्मा जी अनम्यूट करना पड़ेगा आपको.
डॉक्टर साहब आपने भेज दिया तो बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. हम उसे पढ़ नहीं पाए. आज भी हमको आई एम सफरिंग फ्रॉम फीवर.
कोई इशू नहीं सर जी. बिल्कुल
ओनली योर लिसनर. वो
ठीक है सर, कोई इशू नहीं. मैं जस्ट कोई कमेंट मैंने कहा जैसा आपने कोई हो. सो
अच्छा डॉक्टर साहब, I'll take up. I take up last week I was in Himachal Pradesh and in a training program for the DCs, ADCs and STMs. A pertinent question arose that a lot of ECs are being put up, and EC regime is being put up in battery rule, this rule, that rule. He said if the pollution control boards and central pollution control board or the ministry therefore has the experience how to handle that money being collected, because so far the funds available with the boards hardly goes into 100 crores, except the few state board like Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat and Telangana. They do not get, they are not able to spend in 100 crores of rupees. And if you put up, say in West Bengal 3,800, now Maharashtra 10,000 crores rupees EC has been put up, where that money will go and how to manage this fund? If any state pollution control board has got expertise to handle such a thing.
Not there, sir.
Finally, battery role is, and if fraud happens, who will be responsible? Again, there is question. So before proposing and putting up some regime, government should think over it, and there should be a foolproof system, and the deposit. It should be only buyback scheme, then only it will encourage the people, because nobody will be able to keep receipt for 6 years, 5 years, 7 years. And when companies like owned by Anil Ambani and like Holcim, ACC, etc., they are being sold, changing hand here to there. I am holding cards of 2-3 chain, e.g. Big Bazaar and other thing, and they are useless now, because the company's owner are the companies are sold and they are in dispute. So this this deposit scheme is not going to work at all. What is going to work? The buyback scheme. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jinder ji. Time is very for 4-5 minutes. I request Neeraj Tyagi ji, and because he is ongoing and deep in every subject. Every I think Sunday we have meeting. So anything, Neeraj ji, if you want to say overall, because we have also listened the previous speakers. So Neeraj ji.
जी नमस्कार. ये thanks a lot. Actually में
very good flowers you have in the background at that वजह से.
हाँ जी. वो अभी संजीव कुमार जी ने जो ये प्रेजेंटेशन दिया वो बहुत ही एक्सीलेंट था, और उसमें काफी उन्होंने एलैबोरेट भी कर दिया. तो मैं थोड़ा सा ये कहना चाहूंगा तो रिसेंटली नोटिफाइड बैटरी वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट जो रूल्स हैं, these are an updated form of the draft rules published in 2020 after considering the objectives and suggestions from all stakeholders. तो जो एम्फेसिस है वो बेसिकली सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी पे है, जिसके बारे में हम पहले भी डिस्कशन कर चुके हैं इसी फोरम में. The latest rules lay emphasis on the circular economy and put obligations on the producers to use domestically recycled materials. This could push investments and deployment of the latest technologies used in waste extraction. तो इससे डेवलपमेंट को बढ़ावा मिलेगा सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी से. ये बहुत ही एक्सीलेंट वे में ये ड्राफ्ट किए गए हैं. And clearly defined recovery targets are set out of each industrial battery, and these targets shall be reviewed every 4 years by the committee constituted for the implementation of these rules. And इसके अलावा क्लियर लेबलिंग की भी एक बात की गई है कि क्लियर लेबलिंग रिक्वायरमेंट्स आर स्पेसिफाइड if the battery contains heavy metals like mercury, cadmium, and lead. These element symbols must be printed below the symbol, crossed out wheel bin symbol, and shall cover an area of the least 1/4 the size of crossed out wheel bin symbol. और जैसा कि परितोष त्यागी सर ने जैसा बोला था कि स्टोरेज, जैसे जहां पर हमारे जैसे में पावर प्लांट की भी एक इशू थी कि वहां बैटरी बहुत ज्यादा स्क्रैप हो जाए, तो उसके स्टोरेज का भी कुछ होना चाहिए और टाइमली उसका वहां से प्रोड्यूसर जो है उसको ले जाए वहां पे, क्योंकि नहीं तो वो स्क्रैप की बहुत प्रॉब्लम भी आएगी और हजारडस मटेरियल भी बहुत ज्यादा इकट्ठा हो जाएगा. तो ये थोड़े से पॉइंट में कहना चाह रहा था. टाइम कम है.
Sir, thank you, Neeraj ji. Thank you. There are some other people from the RE sustainability, and anybody wants to overall whatever we already discussed. Anything anybody want to anything, or any speaker want to say anything? जो हमारे और लोग ज्वाइन किए हैं, किसी को कुछ? We have 2-3 minutes. We can discuss actually. Anybody wants to add anything? I think.
Sir, just one point
Yes,
that in this this particular rule, the environment compensation is being imposed on the producer, not on the refurbisher or this thing, other channel partners or the end user. So what it appears to be as per the rule is that they are trying to make EPR as the mandate for that anybody who is producing should have mechanism of ensuring that it is coming back to the system in an authorized manner. So that is how EC is here a part.
Yeah. So finally, just to 2-3 point I want to add actually, though it covers the very entire integrated thing, and you can some kind of a very kind of organized thing like a particular industry sector or some big transport sector, you can just directly have a collection system and already go for recycling or refurbishing. But for the consumer things, the first thing is to, because already notified about 15 days, so there should be a very clear-cut awareness, and all SPCB and all environment department of the state and including Central Pollution Control Board Ministry should create first the awareness, because so many advertisement issued which are maybe not required actually. That's because of some vested interest. So this is very important, because battery waste is very hazardous waste. So awareness is to create it. So how, these rules are there. What is the responsibility, particularly at the consumer point of view? Consumer must know that what is their responsibility, how to, have this battery separated, where to give, how can they get some incentive or something like just what there used to be for inverter battery. अगर आप जाएं तो आप जो second battery करते हैं तो 1000 रुपए वो आपको काट के उसमें से दे देता है already जो है. So this should be proper awareness is to be created for the consumer front. कहाँ पे उसको करना है, क्या उसकी responsibility, what are the, कौन सी वेबसाइट पे जो कलेक्शन सेंटर्स के अवेलेबल है, सो ये एक एडवर्टीजमेंट या जिस तरह से भी बहुत जरूरी है, until unless हम और प्यार इस पर्पस जो है हमारी इस फोरम का जो है पर्पस ये भी है कि वी आर ऑलरेडी लाइव यूट्यूब और फेसबुक पे डॉक्टर के अग्रवाल पेज पे रहते हैं कि सो दैट अवेयरनेस लोगों को कि वो उनका रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है क्या करना है। सो आज हमने वी हैव डिस्कस टुडे दीज रूल्स और उनके जो क्या पॉइंट्स थे। सो नाउ आई थिंक ऑलरेडी 1 o'clock मैं अपने सभी जितने भी मेंबर्स हैं इस ग्रुप के एक्सपर्ट मेंबर हैं, रिस्पेक्टेड मेंबर्स हैं, त्यागी सर हैं, जिंदल जी हैं, शाह साहब हैं और नीरज जी और संजीव जी ने बहुत अच्छा प्रेजेंटेशन दिया। संजीव जी ऑलवेज आई थिंक जब भी हमने रिक्वेस्ट की फॉर एनी सब्जेक्ट और संजीव जी ने बहुत विद इन नो टाइम आई थिंक आज कल ही हमने बात की और बहुत अच्छा डिटेल में प्रेजेंटेशन दिया। सो थैंक यू संजीव जी एंड डेफिनेटली ऑल दिस एक्सपर्ट मेंबर्स। आप सबके इसी से जो सहयोग से जो डॉक्टर के अग्रवाल की जो अंतिम इच्छा थी कि सो मस्ट गो ऑन ये चल रहा है। हम लोग तो एक माध्यम है, आई थिंक जहां भी अग्रवाल साहब होंगे उनकी वो देख रहे होंगे, वहां से उनकी ब्लेसिंग हमारे साथ है कि उनके जो बताए हुए मार्ग पे हम सब लोग जो है कोशिश कर रहे हैं और ये जो पब्लिक के लिए हम अवेयरनेस और इस तरह से जो हम कर रहे हैं तो डेफिनेटली इसका बेनिफिट होगा और एनवायरनमेंट का बेनिफिट होगा। इसी के साथ